moment there's 10 people, 15 people that get involved, if it's a really hot debate and the person sitting down is killing it or losing, other people will come and join the debate and go, you didn't say that, and then they'll get 2 or 3 or 5, and then there's a whole attack on it. And it's beautiful because everyone is doing it.
Sorry.
What?
No, and when is it that they just...
We're going to do all the mechanics of debate. There'll be 3 parts to the debate. We'll talk about general philosophy. Every class we'll talk about general philosophy, which is sort of what I'm about to start now. Some fundamentals of logic, which I'll just give you one towards the end, and then we'll talk about debate process. So we'll talk about some context, if you like, Buddhist context, or some ideas that we can debate, like karma and so on, which were the list I just gave you. Then we're going to go and look at the mechanics of Buddhist debating. Right? There's a structure to doing it. Debate happened. This form of logic and debate was in existence before the Buddha. The Buddha was just perfect at it. So he used that method to debate other ideas at the time. And because he had had a visceral realization of suchness, because he was enlightened, he could debate towards a truth anybody that came up using the method that was used at the time in India. Then the Indians got really good at this method of arguing, and so did the Buddhists that came from India. And then it went into Tibet in around the year 600 and something, 700 and something. Yeah, and the Tibetans made it a thing. They got excellent at it. They added more information. They went really into depth. They identified parts of it. And that's where the practice of you can't use a reason or you can't use something that your opponent doesn't believe in, because then that disqualifies you from a debate. Because logically, you can't prove something to someone if they don't believe in one of the aspects that you're telling them. You have to be a master at understanding their philosophy. Yeah? So you can go back to them and say, you believe this. And all you're doing is grabbing their existing thinking and showing them different links that they never saw before. That's all you're doing in a debate. So they can come to a conclusion that you know is true. So that's why the Buddhists became excellent at this. They went and studied with the Brahmins, they went and studied with all the other philosophers at the time, and groups of people, your currency was debating. Your currency was logic, which includes, which we're not going to do much in this course, a ton of memorization. Right? If you really know how another philosophy functions, you better know it and you better memorize it. And if you know how your philosophy functions, your belief systems, you better know it and memorize it. Because when you're on the debate ground, you don't take a piece of paper in there. When you're proving something to someone, you're not saying, hold on a minute. Right? That's you have to be sharp of mind. This is also important not just for the debate ground, but 2 other moments in your spiritual development. So I'm glad you asked the question. Yeah. When you're sitting on the cushion and you go deep into the recesses of your mind and you're following the train of thought that came from a debate, yeah? And you're close to perceiving the ultimate nature of existence, the answer to all answers, right? And if you don't know some fundamental reason or logical connection to your understanding of reality, you get stuck. And you can't break the meditation and go, hold on a minute, nature of reality arriving. You can't do that, yeah? You need to have it so internalized, whatever your belief systems are, and how logical and clear you've got them, you have to have them so internalized that they flow from you. Yeah? This is memorization practice that is associated with logic and debate. On another note, if you're a deep practitioner and you're really putting to practice throughout your everyday the reality that your world comes from you, that the theory of projections and seeds, right? If you've got the fundamental building blocks of that, and you're practicing that in your life. At the time of deep suffering or death, you need to use that immediately. You can't go look at books and go, oh, hold on a minute, death. Is death my projection, or is death? Is this also an existing thing? Shit, I forgot. You can't do that. At that time, there's no time to do that. So hence I didn't cover it, but the importance of really stabilizing your knowledge of what you're driving, your philosophy and your belief system, and those that exist out there that you are bumping up against on a regular basis. So the Buddha was like amazing at it. He had a deep realization of the ultimate nature of all existence, so of course he was going to beat everybody on a debate, and he did. And then the Buddhists that he trained also had realizations and could use those realizations to debate reality with people that lived in reality but didn't have certain connections about the ultimate nature of that reality. That's all it is. So the practice of debate was there long before the Buddha. The Buddha just used it to bring people to a realization of truth. Then the Buddhists made it a thing, because they had to if they were going to debate other points of view. It was your currency. I mean, if you think about it, Master Kamala Shila, 700 and something, debated for India, Nalanda University, right? For India, he debated in a huge public debate with Master Xuanzang. Let me check. Master, I don't know if I wrote it.
You can't do that.
See, you're absolutely right. I don't think I did wrote it. I think it was Xuanzang, okay, from China, who fundamentally believed that meditation on emptiness was clear your mind of all things, make it blank, don't think of anything, remove all thought. And he was the biggest proponent of that from China. That's how China, Mind Only School, was at the time, was teaching people meditation. And in this huge debate, Master Kamala Shila and Master Xuanzang debated this idea, and Master Kamala Shila, understanding the Mind Only School, brought him to a realization that no, the way you meditate on emptiness is you actually do have content in your mind, and that content brings you to something. You can't stop your mind from having content. There is no mind without stuff. And so meditations had content for all of Tibet, for all of India, and then Tibet, for anybody that studied from Master Kamala Shila, because everybody at the time accepted that belief system through logic. And that debate you can go find online. Yeah? So, two things. Be patient with this content. There's a lot of pieces of information that might seem disparate. All of it you can use. And if you know about seeds, it would be really good if you learn it with joy. Add some joy to the limits you'll be pushed on your own perception. Add some joy. Okay, going, damn, I didn't know that. Because if you get too serious about debating, you're going to walk out here upset. Yeah? Imagine all of you attacking you. Yeah? You're wrong. You're right, you're wrong. And so we have to get past that and try to get to truth. We're helping each other come to realizations. Do it with joy, okay? One of the techniques, I think it's on class 8 or 9, we'll talk about how to taunt the opponent so much to try and get them upset, okay? You'll all be very good at that, I know, because I am, yeah? But there's a nastiness in there which we have to play with joy, okay? Does that make sense? Who wants to win a debate? Okay. We're taught that way. So this stuff comes from Lord Buddha. The main comments, this might be question 1 on your homework, yeah? which I'm going to ask you to please do every time. Master Dharma Kirti he wrote this commentary on valid perception, the Pramana Vartika. Pramana Vartika. It's the main text that we're studying, but it's sort of dense and in code. He wrote that text in defense of Master Dignaga, who really was the father of Tibetan Buddhist, of Buddhist logic. Master Dignaga. You don't have to know about Master Dignaga. You just need to know that Master Dharma Kirti, not Chandra Kirti, Dharma Kirti, who lived in 650 AD, wrote this magnificent thing called Pramana Vartika, or Commentary on Valid Perception. What's a valid perception? What's another name for valid perception?
Right view?
Nope.
Valid cognizer?
Anything that you perceive.
Oh, that's the definition, but we'll get to that.
That seems real.
A fresh?
A prime.
Atsema, a pramana is a valid perception. What is it?
A fresh,
Unerring state of mind.
mind.
Yeah, good. We'll talk about it, right? You can have a valid perception, it might not be correct, okay? We are having valid perceptions all the time. But you're in a room, you're listening to a voice, you're having valid perceptions. It's valid for the time. An easy way to, actually, I'll give you the one Geshe Michael used to use in the 90s. He was growing this company with his business partner, and an international, like the biggest diamond company, a jewelry company in America or something, and it's a huge thing. And he used to debate with his boss, who Geshe Michael would be asked by a client like JCPenney to go and buy X number of diamonds, and he'd go and do the type of diamonds they wanted, and then he'd give them to the client. Then the client would send a complaint to the owner saying, this is bad, this is terrible, fantastic, horrible, don't do it again. And then Geshe Michael and the owner would have a debate, his business partner would have a debate, and the owner would say, you bought the wrong diamonds. You didn't have the right perception about the diamonds you bought. He goes, no, I did. I had a valid perception. I had a correct. The client wanted it, and I bought what they wanted. Yeah. At the time, it was the right decision. Now I understand it wasn't what they needed because I had more information. Now I can understand that my valid perception back then was not correct, but at the time it was valid and it functioned, right? So that's a way for you to think about valid versus correct perception. Ultimately, you'll come to realize something might be a mistake, yeah, or that there's a deeper truth, and then that nullifies your previous valid perception that you thought A was correct at the time. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We can debate that to no end, because then I say, well, was it correct? It's like the cow dung, right? Mm-hmm. It started this way and it fell that way. Which is it? Okay. But what we need to know for now is that Master Dharma Kirti wrote this amazing commentary which explains this book by Master Dignaga. And then in the Sera monastery tradition, Purbok Jampat Sultrim Gyatso, who was the teacher of the 13th Dalai Lama, the last Dalai Lama before this one of the teachers, he wrote this commentary on that commentary, or an explanation on how to unlock the idea of logic, and it's called Key to Start the Logic Machine. Key to Start the Logic Machine. So they're really the two core texts. It's important for you to know why. Because you'll hear about Master Dharma Kirti over and over, because it will help you put it into your own Chichedrak around logic and Sama in your own mind. But perhaps most importantly, because it connects you to a living lineage of people just like you, who sat in a room, like Master Dharma Kirti was just dude Dharma Kirti at some point. And then he became Master Dharma Kirti. When he understood these things, he put them into practice. He wasn't born with these ideas. It's not like he was born with knowing this stuff and then became a master at it when he was 2. He went through the work of studying these things, internalizing them and turning them into something. And the same with you. You are part of that living lineage. So 3 reasons to study logic. This might be the 3rd question. And I'll give you a quick summary. Maitreya, who is in the open teachings a Bodhisattva, in the secret teachings he might be the future Buddha. Anyway, he said there's 2 kinds of students. So you might have a question about, give me one positive reason for studying logic, or what kind of students are there? And he said there's 2 kinds of students. Those of dull mind, or those that just follow by faith. Oh, have a nice feeling about that monk. He's a nice monk. I'll listen to what he has to say. And it's just faith-based. Then the next nice monk comes along, says, I like that monk too, and I'll follow what they say. There isn't a breaking down of logic. It's just like a sense perception. Oh, I like that feeling, I don't like that feeling. And he calls them sort of dum-dums. Yeah? People that just follow by faith. Or, he says, sharp mind, one that follows reason, through reason, meaning don't buy anything a teacher tells you because a teacher tells you. You have to make sure it aligns to your experience and your understanding of existence. And that way you're going to come across teachings and teachers that match your level of experience in this world. One example that Geshe-Michael used to give, Ken Rinpoche was his teacher. He was, I guess, a peer of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. They both had the same teacher. Ken Rinpoche was sort of stern and serious, and he was Geshe-Michael's teacher. Geshe-Michael is like a proud student. He's an excellent student. He's the first American to receive the Geshe degree in Tibetan, and he was an amazing scholar, but a little competitive. Yeah. So he heard of this monk who was teaching openly this stuff, and lots of people were going to him, and because he was a friend of the Dalai Lama's or something, yeah, connected somehow to the Dalai Lama, and so he's getting this guy, this monk, gets all these people, and so Geshe-Michael has a chat with him, and he realizes the guy isn't a monk, he hasn't studied very much, and he's got all these followers. And so Geshe-Michael sort of upset, calls or goes and talks to Ken Rinpoche, his own teacher, says, what about this guy over here? You know, who is he? And did you know his teaching is not even a monk and he hasn't done any formal study like I did, you know, etc., etc. And Ken Rinpoche goes, oh, I know who he is. He's the son of such and such. His mother was such and such. His grandfather was such and such. He actually hasn't done any formal study, but he's got all this experience and realization, meditates so many times a day, blah, blah, blah. He's an extraordinary person. Be careful who you judge, you don't really know. Yeah? So Geshe-Michael was looking at this going, through reason, these people are following him for faith, through faith. And yet Ken Rinpoche is going, no, there's a logic behind why this guy's teaching and knows the stuff he knows. So it gives you 2 clues here. Number 1, you will develop faith over time. If it's based on logic, it will be unshakable. Number 2, following by faith alone, it doesn't help you at all. Yeah? Does that make sense?
No.
Yeah. No? No?
You will develop faith
Eventually.
by logic, but faith is not reliable.
Faith by itself is not reliable.
Oh, you need the logic with the faith.
You need to mix those 2 together. If you have faith, have a nice experience with you, and that's a valid experience I'm having with you, right? Now I'm going to say, follow everything you say without questioning what you say. That's not so good, yeah? Just because I like you. That's not. If I question enough, if I challenge my own opinion and check my own experience with what you're saying using logic,
Yeah.
then I can have way more faith with you, especially if what you're saying matches my experience of reality. Yeah?
Yeah.
So
My misunderstanding was I thought through the logic you develop the faith.
You do. You develop a deeper
But the
faith.
faith alone is not enough. You need the logic some more to develop something
At some
that's
point,
deeper than faith.
they match together, and that was my first point at the beginning of class, saying that's how you get to be a magnificent practitioner. Through logic. Not the Buddha said, don't believe anything I say. If it doesn't fit your version of reality, then follow. Then come to know the Buddha's teachings. Don't just believe it because I say, because if you do, using that logic, you have to believe the next bastard that comes along, and the next one, and the next one, if you're just believing because people say. If you analyze, which is using logic, and question, which is using logic, and test, which is using logic, against your experience, those words or those philosophies that are being said, then you can get a certainty through logic, and you can develop faith. Yeah, that this is the right way to look at the world. This is the right way to approach the world. And then what the teacher taught might resonate with a truth, regardless of what other people say about them. Does that make sense? No.
Yeah, well, yes, but the key, I didn't realize that there's a difference between the first faith you described, your first experience, and the last faith you described, which
correct.
has been generated through more logic and the three things you described.
Yeah. It's a faith based in certainty, not a faith based on emotion. How's that? Yeah. So these are the two types of students, but the number one reason here is that it will get you to the ultimate experience of the way the world truly functions, of understanding emptiness. Through logic and the study of logic, you will come to know that in a way, if you apply it, in a way that you would not otherwise know it. As an aside to that, Master Maitreya goes, there's two kinds of people that are studying this way to break up reality and understand their world. One is just follow anyone, and the other one is understand what they say, put it into practice, test it, use logic. This one will get there faster, is what they're saying. Yeah. The next reason, this comes from the Sakya Pandita, who's the beginning of the lineage of the Sakyas, as we know it today. He said, suppose a person comes to understand the scriptural tradition of how to reason, meaning if you really understand the way logic functions. This art of proving or disproving things. A master like this is a person who keeps the teachings of total enlightened Buddhas safe here in the world. So the second reason to study logic, might be question 4, is to keep the teachings safe. What the hell does that mean?
Uncorrupted.
That's awesome. So if you truly, through logic, go through exploring the nature of existence, come to realize how the world appears versus how it is, through logic and then meditation and then realizations. Logic in debating, meditation, and then realizations on the cushion. Yeah? If you come to really believe and understand through this sharp, clear logic, then you will have kept the teaching safe, because the teachings are only teaching ultimate reality. The teachings are only teaching how things are. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the second reason is to keep the realizations, the truth of Dharma in the world. If you don't have the realizations, if you didn't do the debating, the logic, the understanding, and then the meditating, and then the realizations, we're just talking. If you get to realizations, if you get to meditation, if you get deep because you've used your own logic, tried to break it, lived a life that challenged the status quo and tried to see how this functions or doesn't function in that world. And if after enough time you've proven to yourself, you don't need to prove it to anyone else, to yourself the way things function, then you will have ultimate realizations. You are keeping Dharma in the world. Yeah. Lastly, reasons, third lastly, which relates to that story about Geshe Michael and talking to, you don't know who people are. This is a negative proof of why logic works. The Buddha said, only I or a person like me is able to judge another person. A person like me means an enlightened being, a person that can see all existence. No other person should ever judge another, or they will surely fall. So this is one of the core reasons to study logic. It's interesting. I'm going to give you two things here. Number one, the cow lady. Don't know who she is. She appears one way and then appears another. How many people in your world have you ever met that appeared one way and then drove you to a realization, whether they were good people or bad people to you? How many people have met people that, right? Who are they?
Manifestations of your own mind.
Manifestations of your own mind. Fantastic. Who are they? But if you judge them, right? So have you all heard my story about the angry boss, the TED Talk thing? Yeah? Who was he? He completely angered me. In my mind, he was the source of my problems all the time. Whenever I was angry, it was his fault. Really, that's how it functioned and that's how it appeared. What Lord Buddha is saying here is like, unless you can read another person's mind, motivation, you have no clue who other people are in your world. You can judge their actions, no problem. Don't hurt another person. No problem. Yeah? But then to leap from that and say, I know who you are. I know the way you're thinking. I know your motivation. He's saying if you do that, you're falling. You're going back in the cycles of suffering. He says only a person that can read other beings' minds and know other beings' consciousness can do that. The two beautiful things about this is, number one, that's true. Does anybody know for sure who other people in this room are? For sure. No. You know? I dare say you don't even know yourself who you are. Yeah? Seriously, our minds have a tendency to generalize and organize things and then label them, and that's a shortcut for navigating this awesomeness that is all existence. But it ain't all existence. It's a shortcut. Yeah? So you develop an identity, yourself, or who I am, and you call yourself that and you operate under that, but that ain't who you are. That is your shortcut to understand this magnificent thing that is too big for this little thing to know. And we mistake that little thing for the big thing. And Lord Buddha here is saying, if you do that, you're going to get stuck in the little circles. You're going to be stuck in suffering. The other magnificent thing about this is, if you really walked around the planet acting like this, not judging another person, just observing situations, but not judging the other person, making them always available to be that magical lady, that deity, your world is completely different. If every person that pissed you off, if every honking horn in New York, if every smelly person in the subway, if every screaming child in the trains could be something else that you don't know, then your mind is open to enlightenment. I think that's what is being pitched here for us. Number one, you can't be sure. Number two, if they could be anything, all of a sudden everyone's available to be Buddhas for you. Mm-hmm. And if you understand seeds, you know how to make them. So that's the third reason. It completely stops suffering. Last question, and then one talk about debate, which is what you said. What is the definition of a reason? So to debate, you have to give reasons for things, right? And the first part of logic we're going to talk about, the first subject matter, is the definition of a reason. And the definition of a reason is taksu kupa takitseni, which is reason has put forth, which is reason of definition. Definition of a reason is anything you give forth as a reason. Okay, this is magic because I didn't say correct reason, okay? So I didn't say correct reason. So that's a really nice definition of a reason. We're all Buddhists all of a sudden. A definition of a reason is anything that anybody puts forth as a reason. That is a reason, right? It just doesn't have to be correct. We agree that a reason is anything that anybody calls a reason. Now, is that the right reason? Probably not. If it's not the right reason, we can knock it down in debate. But it's a reason. Fair? I'll give you an example. You will all understand Buddhist logic because cats. That's a logical statement, okay? That I can say that. You will all understand Buddhist logic because cats. The reason I gave you for understanding Buddhist logic is cats. Is that a reason in my statement?
Yes.
That's it. That's the definition of a reason.
But you said that's a logical statement. Is it?
Sort of a logical statement. It is a statement
Uh-huh.
that, let's say I believed it's my logic, okay? Consider understanding the class of Buddhism, yeah? Consider the class of Buddhism. The assertion is you will understand it. The reason is because of cats, okay? That's still a logical statement. Is it correct logical statement? No. Well, it depends.
I don't know what the definition of logic is then.
We haven't gotten there. We've just got the definition of a reason in logical argument. Yeah? I didn't tell you about the 3 parts of a logical statement, which I just told you. Yeah? There's 3 parts to a logical statement. There's a subject, there's an assertion, and there's a reason. Consider Buddhist classes. You will get to understand them is the assertion, because cats is the reason. So the reason I gave might not be correct. Do you understand that? Is that fair?
Yes.
But is cats a reason in that statement? That's all we're learning now.
Very cute.
Like the musical?
No. No. Why is anything you put forth as a reason a reason?
Because you're saying about.
This will take us to the next class, okay?
Do you mean how it functions in the context of debate, or
Yeah.
or in the? Because otherwise, you'd have to only be speaking the truth the whole time.
Correct, right. Not only that, if you say anything you put forth as a reason, anything is any existing thing, right? Anything in the existing, even your imagination of something that exists that doesn't exist.
It doesn't have to exist.
Like, exactly.
Right.
Even your imagination. So long as it's a reason, then everything under the sun can be used in debate, can be used in logic. Yeah? I am happy because flower. I might be happy because flower. And don't forget, we're not trying to say, is that the right thing? We're trying to figure out the mechanics of how our logic works. Let's use that example. I am happy because flower. Consider me. The assertion is, I am happy. Reason, flower. Is that a good reason?
Depends.
Maybe.
It depends, right? Depends on who?
You.
Depends on the debater. I can debate with you and force you to believe that flower is the cause of my happiness if I'm a good debater. Yeah? That's not the point. The point is not winning the debate. The point is seeing which edges of reason you come to as you argue that. Can you say that the flower is the cause of my happiness? Let's do a quick one now.
Yes.
Sure you
Well, you
can.
can say it.
Who says flower is cause of my happiness?
But
Can be the cause of my happiness.
Can.
Ah, okay, cool. Prove it.
you're happy.
I am happy, there is a
There is
flower.
flower.
Great. Using that logic, computer is the source of my happy too. Because I am happy, there is computer. So flower can't be the reason for my happiness if computer is the reason for my happiness.
You can have 2 reasons
You can.
for happy.
Yeah, that's a good reason for a
And you
reason.
can be happy without the 2 as well.
Oh, so if I
I don't
remember,
know. I haven't seen him without the flower or the computer.
do you see what we're doing now? Yeah, we're diving into what we believe, and now all I have to do is put a question in your mind, and then that challenges your previous assertion. And another question, and it challenges your previous assertion. Yeah? If I limit your responses to yes, no, maybe, not necessarily so, etc., you're cornered, or I'm cornered to asking just the right questions that would lead to what I think should be the result. And so it's not that we're going to find out whether flowers really cause me happiness. We're going to find out how we think flowers cause me happiness.
And do we like cut deep on what we define as happiness?
In the debate, we're going to go, what is happiness? Define happiness. Define not happiness. Define causation between flower and happiness. We're going to do all that, right? But we can't do that in a day-to-day walking around picking flowers. We think we're going to be happy. Yeah, so we picked a flower, then someone punched me in the face because it was their perfect garden, and it didn't make me happy. Yeah. So all we need to know for this is that any reason given in a logical statement is good enough. It's just not a good reason. It doesn't have to be a correct reason. So the definition of a reason is anything at all that you decide. Yeah. It is nighttime because sky is blue. Is that a correct logical statement or an incorrect logical statement?
What shade of blue?
And so we begin questioning, and so we begin debate. Yeah. Let me tell you one more thing. This is His Holiness in his Geshe debate in 1959, I think.
What?
Yeah.
That's
Isn't that cool?
That's the 14?
That's the current Dalai Lama. Yeah.
1959.
That's what we call them now.
1959. So the year they left, yeah, which is the day the time they made him regent. They made him the temporal and political head. Right. I think it said 1959 when I looked at the picture.
He was like, wait, let's debate, and then we'll go.
I'm going to tell you something about Kutrim. Before people debate, in the debate grounds, after they go study, they study like this and then they go to the debate ground. Sometimes, for more than half an hour, 45 minutes, sometimes 2 hours, before they debate each other, before they go, the sky isn't blue, it's black, or whatever the debate is, yeah, they check their motivation. This is called Kuntrim. They check their motivation. The long term is Nikurim. Sorry, Nikurim. Kurim. They check their motivation. Why am I doing this? So I can get to truth. Why do I get to truth? So I can be free of suffering. If I get free of suffering, can I help this world? I can truly help this world. Imagine all the beings, the countless beings that I'm aware of. Imagine if I could give them a truth that freed them from suffering. So they sit there, and it's now become a formal prayer. It didn't always become a formal prayer, and it's in your readings. If you download the readings from the website, which are on the Facebook page, a link to the website where the readings are is on the Facebook invite. On the main part there saying reading, you can go there, look at the reading, and it's this long, beautiful prayer that says, may I understand the ultimate nature of things, and through this debate, may my ego piss off, may my afflictions go away, may I just come to realize the nature of things now, quickly, before time passes too much, and may I help every living being. They recite something like Gandeng Lagyema, they recite the Heart Sutra 18 times, all these things way before sitting down to do a debate. Yeah? So that's the little bit of debate I'm telling you about today. Next time we'll talk a little bit about the accoutrement of debate and the rest. So we talked a little bit about debate. We know that first of all, you have to have this deep motivation to get out of suffering and help other beings get out of suffering, and understand that you are capable of doing this because of this amazing thing called your mind. And then we learned that anything give forth as a reason is the definition of a reason. Then we learned all these other story. Next week we talk about all existing things. So let's say goodbye. Offer the mandala with your best motivation. Saji Jushin Mental Tran Rirao Linchi Vajraparsho Hiraguru Ratnamanda Kanye Atayami Gawadi Gamoku Sunam Yeshe Sotokshin Sunam Yeshe Virgin Way Rampa Kuni Droparsho. Thank you for coming. Please reconnect with your sheets of paper. Sorry I didn't get through them, but I want to finish early. Bring them back next week, please. Yeah, if you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Please stay.
Thank you.
Please stay.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Thank you for teaching.
My pleasure. Don't believe anything I say.
Because cats.